Have you ever imagined that the key to a lighter and more purposeful life could be something as simple as a handful of salt? Indeed, Buddhist monks, masters of ancient wisdom, hold a curious secret. They put salt in their shoes. It sounds strange, but this practice goes far beyond superstition. It has the power to transform your outlook on life. What could this unusual habit teach us about balance and clarity? Keep watching to discover how such a simple gesture can be the first step towards a fuller and more conscious life. In a monastery high in the mountains, the wise monk Makoto teaches an ancient practice to his students, putting salt in their shoes. It seems silly, doesn't it? But there is much more to this tradition than meets the eye. Salt, which we use every day in our food, has special powers that few know about. Makoto tells that, a long time ago, salt was as valuable as gold. People kept it as a treasure. He explains that salt is not just for flavoring food, but also for cleansing the soul and protecting the body. Imagine your shoes are like little boats that carry you through life, says Makoto with a smile. Salt is like a magical shield that protects these little boats from life's storms. The students listen attentively as Makoto talks about how salt absorbs moisture. Just like a sponge soaks up water, he says, salt in your shoes soaks up worries and suffering. He asks the students to imagine their problems as raindrops falling into their shoes. The salt, he explains, acts like a magical towel, drying these drops before they can soak them. When your shoes are dry, Makoto smiles, your steps are lighter and your journey is easier. He tells the story of a traveler who crossed a desert with salt in his shoes. Despite the heat and sand, his feet remained cool and comfortable. The salt not only dried the sweat, says Makoto, but also relieved the fatigue of the journey. The monk then talks about the cleaning power of salt. Salt is like a little army of cleaners in your shoes, he jokes. Makoto explains that salt not only cleans visible dirt, but also the bad energies we cannot see. He tells the story of a man who always came home in a bad mood after work. One day he started putting salt in his shoes. Like magic, his mood improved. The salt was cleaning the bad energies he picked up during the day, explains Makoto. He suggests that the students try putting a little salt in their shoes before leaving home. See how you feel different at the end of the day, he challenges with a mischievous smile. Makoto compares salt in shoes to the mountains around the monastery. Just as these mountains give us strength and stability, he says, salt in shoes helps us stay firm in life. He asks the students to close their eyes and imagine they are walking on a tightrope. Now, imagine you have salt in your shoes, he says. Do you feel more balanced? The students open their eyes, surprised by the difference they felt, even just imagining it. Makoto explains that salt helps not only with physical balance, but also with emotional balance. When you feel balanced, he smiles, it is easier to deal with life's ups and downs. Finally, Makoto talks about how salt can heal. He tells about a farmer who had a wound on his foot that wouldn't heal. One day, he soaked his foot in salt water, and the wound began to improve. Salt doesn't just heal the body, Makoto says with a sparkle in his eyes, but also the soul. He suggests that when the students feel sad or worried, they put a little salt in their shoes. Let the salt absorb not only the moisture but also the sorrows, he advises. Makoto ends the lesson with a gentle smile. Remember, he says, a little salt can make a big difference. Sometimes the healing we seek is closer than we think, right under our feet. Makoto smiles, picking up a handful of salt. This little white grain, he says, is a precious gift from the earth. He explains that using salt in shoes is like saying thank you to the world. Every step we take, Makoto continues, is a chance to give thanks. He asks the students to think about all the good things in their lives. Now, he says with a sparkle in his eyes, imagine each grain of salt is one of those happy moments. The students smile, imagining their shoes filled with good memories. Makoto explains that when we walk with gratitude, life becomes lighter and more beautiful. It's like walking in a garden of flowers, he says, instead of a field of stones. The monk tells the story of a woman who was always complaining about life. One day she started putting salt in her shoes, thinking of something good each time she did it. Gradually, Makoto says, she began to see more good things around her. He explains that gratitude is like a magnet for good things. The more we give thanks, he smiles, the more reasons we have to be thankful. Makoto suggests a simple exercise. Before going to bed, put a little salt in a jar, thinking of 3 good things that happened during the day. By the end of the week, he says, you'll have a jar full of happy moments. Makoto takes a pinch of salt and throws it into the air. The students watch the grains glittering in the sunlight. See how beautiful it is, he says. Gratitude is like that. It makes everything shine brighter. He explains that when we are grateful, even difficult things seem less heavy. It's like putting salt in tasteless food. Makoto smiles. Suddenly, everything becomes more flavorful. He asks the students to think of something that bothers them. Now, he says, try to find something to be thankful for in that situation. The students are surprised to realize they can see something good, even in bad things. The monk then talks about how gratitude connects us with others. When we give thanks, he says, it's like casting a net of joy. Makoto asks the students to close their eyes and imagine this net spreading across the world. Every time you are grateful, he explains, this net becomes stronger. He tells about a man who started thanking for the little things, the neighbor's smile, the smell of coffee, the birds singing. Soon, Makoto smiles. He realized he had more friends and felt happier. The monk suggests that the students start the day by thanking something simple, like the air they breathe. To finish, Makoto takes a shoe and puts a little salt in it. This is not just a shoe with salt, he says with a wise smile. It is a reminder of everything we have. He explains that each step with gratitude is a step towards a happier life. It's like planting seeds of joy wherever you go, Makoto says. He challenges the students to use salt in their shoes for a week, thanking something different each day. By the end of the week, he promises with a sparkle in his eyes, you will see the world in a new way. Makoto ends the lesson with a piece of advice. Remember, gratitude is like salt. A little bit makes all the difference. Makoto takes a handful of salt and lets it trickle through his fingers. Each grain, he says with a distant look, carries stories of people who lived before us. He explains that putting salt in shoes is like giving a hug to our ancestors. When we do this, Makoto smiles. It's like they walk with us. He asks the students to think of their grandparents, great-grandparents, and all the people who came before. Imagine their struggles, their joys, he says. The students close their eyes, feeling a connection to the past. Makoto tells that, a long time ago, people used salt to preserve food on long journeys. Just as salt preserved food, he explains, it preserves our memories and traditions. The monk tells the story of a young man who didn't get along with his grandfather. One day, the grandfather gave him a bag of salt, saying it was a family treasure. The young man, curious, started putting the salt in his shoes. Gradually, Makoto says, he began to understand his grandfather better. He explains that salt helps us feel the wisdom of the elders. It's like each grain is a little lesson. He smiles. Makoto suggests that the students ask the elders in their family about old traditions. Maybe, he says with a sparkle in his eyes, you'll find that salt has a special role in your family's history. Makoto takes an old worn shoe. This shoe, he says, has walked a lot. He puts a little salt in it and continues. Now it's ready for more adventures. The monk explains that salt reminds us that we are part of something bigger. We are like links in a chain that comes from far away, he says. Makoto asks the students to imagine all the steps their ancestors took so they could be there. Every step you take, he smiles, is a tribute to them. He suggests that when putting salt in their shoes, the students think of a quality they admire in someone in their family. The wise monk then talks about how salt connects us not only with the past, but also with the future. When we use salt with respect, he says, we are passing something valuable forward. Makoto tells about a family that had the custom of giving a bag of salt to each child on their 10th birthday. It was a reminder, he explains, that they were now part of a long story. He suggests that the students create their own tradition with salt. Who knows? Makoto smiles. Maybe 100 years from now, your grandchildren will be talking about this. He reminds that each small gesture can become an important tradition in the future. To conclude, Makoto takes a mirror and puts a little salt on the edge. Look, he says, you and your ancestors, all together. The students come closer, seeing their reflections surrounded by grains of salt. Each of you, Makoto says with affection, is a treasure made of many stories. He explains that using salt in shoes is a way to honor these stories and create new ones. It's like writing a book with your feet. He smiles. Makoto ends the lesson with a piece of advice. Walk with gratitude. Remember those who came before and leave a beautiful path for those who will come after. Salt in shoes is just the beginning of a great journey. In the monastery, the wise monk Shinzu gathers the students to talk about something everyone does, but few understand well. Sleeping. Sleep, he says with a calm smile, is like a magical broom for our mind and body. Shinzu explains that sleeping is not just closing your eyes and resting. It is a chance for the body to heal and the mind to organize. But, he says with a mischievous look, there is a secret that few know. The students lean forward, curious. Shinzu reveals, the side you sleep on makes all the difference. He says that sleeping on the left side is like opening a secret door to health. It's like your body has a map, he explains, and sleeping on the left side is the quickest path to the treasure of good health. Shinzu asks the students to lie on the floor, on their left side. Feel how different it is, he says. He explains that this position helps the body cleanse itself from the inside. It's like your body has a cleaning system, Shinzu smiles, and sleeping on the left side turns this system on. He says this helps the body get rid of bad things faster. Imagine your body is a house, he says. Sleeping on the left side is like opening all the windows for fresh air to come in. Shinzu also says this position is good for the heart. It's like giving your heart a warm hug every night, he says affectionately. The monk then talks about how sleeping on the left side can help with digestion. It's like giving a helping hand to your stomach, he explains with a smile. Shinzu tells the story of a student who always had heartburn at night. When he started sleeping on the left side, the problem went away. It's like putting your food on a gentle slope instead of a steep hill, he says. Shinzu suggests that the students try sleeping this way for a week. Pay attention to how you feel in the morning, he advises. You might find you wake up more refreshed, as if you slept on a bed of clouds. Shinzu then talks about the spiritual benefits of sleeping on the left side. This position, he says with a sparkle in his eyes, is like opening a window to your soul. He explains that many people have clearer and more meaningful dreams when they sleep this way. It's like your spirit gets wings during the night, Shinzu smiles. He tells about a monk who had an important vision after he started sleeping on the left side. Sometimes, Shinzu says, the answers we seek come when we are sleeping. He suggests that the students keep a notebook by their bed to write down interesting dreams. Who knows, he winks, you might discover something amazing about yourself. To finish, Shinzu talks about how to create a good environment for sleeping. Your bedroom should be like a cozy nest, he says. He suggests using dark curtains, keeping the room cool and quiet, and avoiding bright lights before bed. And don't forget, Shinzu smiles, to give thanks before sleeping. He explains that going to bed with a grateful heart helps to have a more peaceful sleep. Think of 3 good things that happened during the day, he suggests. Shinzu ends the lesson with a piece of affectionate advice. Remember, each night of sleep is a chance to be reborn. Enjoy this magical gift that life gives us every day. The monk Shinzo gathers the students under a leafy tree. Sleep, he says with a sparkle in his eyes, is more than rest. It is a door to incredible worlds. He explains that while we sleep, magical things can happen. Sometimes, Shinzo smiles, we have dreams that show us the future. He tells the story of a student who dreamed of a rare flower, and the next day found this same flower on the way to the monastery. These dreams are like treasure maps for our life, explains Shinzo. He suggests that the students write down their dreams when they wake up. Who knows? He winks. You might discover something amazing about your future. Shinzo reminds that not all dreams are prophetic, but all have something to teach us. Shinzo then talks about astral travel. Sometimes, he says in a low voice as if sharing a secret, our soul goes for a walk while we sleep. He explains that some people feel like they are floating or flying during sleep. It's like your spirit is a balloon, free to explore the sky. Shinzo smiles. He tells about a monk who, during an astral journey, saw distant places he had never visited physically. When he woke up, Shinzo says, he could describe these places in detail. The monk suggests that before sleeping, the students think of a beautiful place they would like to visit. Who knows? He winks. Your soul might take a little trip there. Sometimes, Shinzo continues, we can even talk to special people while we sleep. He explains that some believe it is possible to communicate with ancient masters or loved ones who have passed away during sleep. It's like sleep is a magical phone to the beyond. He smiles. Shinzo tells about a student who dreamed of her grandmother, receiving important advice that helped her solve a problem. These encounters, he says, can bring comfort and wisdom. He suggests that the students, before sleeping, think of a wise person they would like to talk to. Open your heart, Shinzo advises, and see what messages come in your dreams. The monk then talks about the healing that can happen during sleep. Our body has an internal doctor, he explains, who works best when we are sleeping. Shinzo tells about a student who had back pain. After practicing meditation before sleeping, focusing on healing, the pain decreased. It's like giving superpowers to your internal doctor. He smiles. Shinzo suggests a simple exercise. Before sleeping, imagine a golden light surrounding your body, healing and renewing. Do this for a week, he challenges, and see how you feel. He reminds that even if you don't see immediate results, the simple act of focusing on healing is already beneficial. To conclude, Shinzo talks about how sleep can connect us with our higher self. Sleeping, he says, is like climbing a mountain and seeing everything from above. He explains that sometimes we wake up with brilliant ideas or solutions to problems that bothered us. It is your higher self whispering secrets to you. Shinzo smiles. He suggests that the students keep a notebook by their bed. If you wake up in the middle of the night with an idea, he advises, write it down right away. Shinzo ends the lesson reminding that each night of sleep is an adventure. Close your eyes with curiosity, he says with a sparkle in his eyes. Who knows what wonders you will discover in the world of dreams? The monk Noro sits in a circle with his students, his serene face hiding deep wisdom. Today, he says, we will talk about something that seems simple but is quite complicated, helping others. The students lean in, curious. Noro continues, sometimes the best help is not helping. Seeing the confused expressions, he smiles. It seems strange, doesn't it? But it's like a plant. If you keep watering it too much, it can die. He explains that each person has their own path, their own lessons to learn. It's like life is a big school, Noro says, and everyone has their own homework. He suggests that before helping someone, they think, did this person ask for my help? Do they really need it? Noro picks up a stone and throws it into a nearby lake. See the waves, he says. Every action of ours is like this stone. It creates waves that spread. He explains that this is karma, the law of cause and effect. When we help without being asked, Noro continues, we can create waves that disrupt others' paths. He tells the story of a man who always did his son's homework. The boy never learned to make an effort. Noro says sadly, the father thought he was helping, but he was hindering. The monk suggests that the students observe their actions before acting. He advises, think about the waves you will create. Sometimes, Noro says softly, suffering is an important teacher. The students seem surprised. It's like the fire that forges a sword. He explains, it can be painful, but it makes us stronger. Noro tells about a butterfly that a boy helped out of its cocoon. The butterfly never managed to fly, he says. It needed that struggle to strengthen its wings. The monk reminds them that it is natural to want to help when we see someone suffering. But sometimes, he smiles gently, The best help is to be present, to listen, and to let the person find their own strength. He suggests that the students practice attentive listening. Often, Noro says, people just need to be heard. The wise monk then talks about the importance of respecting each person's timing. Life is like a big garden, he says. Each plant grows at its own pace. Noro explains that when we try to rush someone's growth, we can cause more harm than good. It's like trying to force a flower to bloom. He smiles. It can get hurt. He suggests that the students practice patience, both with others and with themselves. Trust the process of life, Noro advises. Everyone has their own internal clock. He reminds them that often the best thing we can do is create a supportive and loving environment, allowing each person to flourish in their own time. To conclude, Noro speaks about the wisdom in knowing when to help. It's like dancing, he says with a sparkle in his eyes. Sometimes you lead, sometimes you follow, and sometimes you just stand back and observe the music. He explains that true compassion comes from deep understanding. Before extending a hand, Noro advises, ask yourself, will this really help in the long run? The monk reminds them that sometimes the best help is to inspire others to find their own solutions. Be like the sun, he smiles. Shine, give warmth, but let each plant grow on its own. Noro ends the lesson with a gentle challenge. This week, before helping someone, stop and observe. See if you can help without interfering with their unique path. The journey through the teachings of Buddhist monks reminds us that, even in the most challenging moments, ancient wisdom can illuminate our path. This story doesn't end here, and your learning journey doesn't either. If these teachings touched your heart, don't keep that feeling to yourself. Share it with us. Give us a like right now. It's your virtual applause for ancient wisdom and for everyone who chooses to live more consciously, even when it's difficult. And don't stop here. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any inspiring teachings. Remember, every subscription helps us reach more people with messages of peace and transformation. In the comments, tell us which teaching resonated with you the most. Your opinion is not only valuable to us, but also helps YouTube recommend our channel to more people seeking wisdom and balance. And since you're here, why not continue this journey of discovery? On the right, you'll find our latest video, as profound as this one. And on the left, a complete playlist of teachings that will inspire and transform your life. Don't miss the chance to connect with more wisdom that can change your perspective and elevate your spirit. Thank you for being with us on this journey of self-knowledge. See you in the next video, where more extraordinary teachings await you. Remember, a grain of salt may seem small, but it can make all the difference. Similarly, each small action of yours, a like, a comment, a subscription, can create waves of transformation in the world.